5 Pardot release highlights not to forget.
Correct. Thank you.
All right. Good stuff. I'm ready for you to start recording if you'd like, and we can jump right into it.
Go for it.
All right, awesome. So I love this title because we know how many releases there are a year, and sometimes it just can be a lot. But what Marcos and I have done is just connected on what we really find for everyday users in Pardot. This is probably what you're not going to want to forget. So a few topics that we're going to cover: user sync, email lightning builder, HTML snippets, and connected campaigns we'll talk about as well. So starting off with, in my opinion, the boring topic, user sync. What is it? Salesforce User Sync allows us to streamline how we manage users. So this is still fairly new. And I think a lot of us are still trying to understand how to not only implement it, but also the best way to implement it, but also manage it moving forward. So really what this does is it simplifies not only how we create, but also edit users, delete users, and it's really helping us create that one-to-one relationship between our Salesforce profiles and our Pardot roles. So how can I tell if user sync is enabled in my org? There's a few different considerations here. So if your org was purchased after the summer 20 release, it is automatically enabled. If it is not, you will have a little bar, our favorite Pardot notifications that we love to see. You will have that notification on your dashboard to launch that wizard. So again, this is before that summer 20 release. You'll most likely have this notification on your dashboard, and it'll walk you through the wizard. You're going to enable user sync. Once you're done following all of these prompts, you will map your Salesforce profiles to your Pardot roles, again, creating that one-to-one relationship. Then the last screen that you'll have is to select which profiles you would like to map to what level of access in Pardot. And we'll talk a little bit more about the different options you have outside of profiles, like roles, groups, etc., that you can also use to manage your user sync. Okay, so one of the things that I do want to clarify, even if user sync is already enabled, you still have to let Pardot know which profile should be given access to what level in Pardot. So this step right here still needs to be done if you've purchased your org after the summer 20 release. All right. The last thing that you may want to enable is allowing Salesforce to manage all of this. So transfer your user management to Salesforce. The user sync continues to work as it always has. Unless you do this, you can still create new users from Pardot, edit users, and change rules. After that user management is transferred over to Salesforce, the Salesforce Pardot connector screen is used for updating the profile and role mapping only. So important note here, assign users to Pardot and Salesforce before you transfer user management. Otherwise, anyone who is not assigned will automatically be archived in the Pardot recycling bin, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. So after you enable everything, after you connect which profiles should map over to which roles, what does user management look like after enabling this? So you're actually going to manage everything within that marketing setup in Pardot. You're going to have your marketing user section and then your sales user section. And we'll talk a little bit more about why those two different sections are important. And also note, if your user does not exist, you have to create a new Salesforce user and then assign that correct profile. And then, of course, any other permission sets and licenses that you need to apply. So how is this different from single sign-on? So we know that single sign-on has been required since February 21 of this year. User sync was not yet required, is not yet required, but it is encouraged. Not required as of right now, but we can take some hints. The major difference is single sign-on is controlling that authentication method that allows users to access multiple applications with one login or one set of credentials. And yes, that does include Pardot-only users. These individuals do not have access to Salesforce or Sales Cloud. Single sign-on removes Pardot only logins and again uses those Salesforce credentials. All right, so yes, it does matter if you're moving them over from marketing to sales users. So we saw a few slides ago where you could differentiate which roles had access to your sales level Pardot role, your sales manager, your marketing, or your admin. If you're moving your users within this marketing group, it will honor your mapping that you've created already from Pardot, your Salesforce profile rather, to your Pardot role. If you are utilizing the sales box here, or the sales section, I should say, then it's automatically going to give them the Pardot sales role. So it's going to ignore any mapping that you've done on your user sync settings. All right. So we also talked about how we can apply different levels of access based on not only profiles, but also roles and groups. So roles and subordinates, not mandatory compared to profiles, but this can help define what users can see depending on the hierarchy, like record access, data visibility, and sharing rules. So I know a lot of us don't really get to see that visibility within Salesforce. So I just wanted to shed some light on, you do have other options outside of profiles or in addition to profiles. We also have groups, which is, I like to think of similar to your Facebook groups, where it's a collection of individual users or even other groups, individual roles that have one function in common. Public groups are used to extend sharing rules beyond roles. So for example, sharing a resource to everybody in an organization may be cumbersome and time consuming, but assigning it to a public group can be done in one click. You can also assign based on groups, assign Pardot access based on groups. All right, so we talked about managing users. What about deleting users? So when you would like to delete users, depending on what your specific scenario is, whether or not you would like to remove them from both Salesforce and Pardot, what you're actually going to do is mark them inactive within your CRM. That inactive checkbox on that Salesforce user profile, user record, you're going to go ahead and mark them as inactive. That's automatically going to move that user to the Pardot recycling bin. Now, if we're looking to just remove Pardot access only, all you need to do is move your individual right back over to the left-hand side so they no longer have Pardot access. All right. So the last slide here, there are also some additional settings that you will see within your Pardot user sync settings here. Update Pardot user role when a user Salesforce profile changes. You can also move your Pardot user to the recycling bin when they no longer have an assigned profile. I would be careful of this just because, and this is usually our recommendation here, the checkboxes that you see, skip Salesforce users who email matches or email addresses matches an existing Pardot only user recommended. This is typically what we are suggesting. Some of the items that we've ran into for individuals that I've seen check this off. If you are using automation rules, engagement programs, completion actions, or really any other automation tools within Pardot, if that assigned profile no longer exists, we know that that Pardot record is going to, or Pardot user rather, is going to end up in the recycling bin. So in some cases, you may not be able to save or edit that automation, or once you edit or resave that automation, it's going to error out. My specific use case, I was working on an engagement studio program for a client, and it was branches and branches and branches long. And I was unable to save this because one of the users was deleted. Pardot emails continue to send from deleted user email addresses. So while automations can be affected, your Pardot emails will continue to send from that deleted user's email address. All right, so I'm going to stop here. I don't have the chat open in another window, but I certainly can. Do we want to stop here for questions, or should I keep going?
Let's keep going to make sure that you get through all your material. Let's go ahead and stop. I think you have 5 items, so let's stop after like the third one.
Got it. All right. So email lightning builder. This one I hear very often. Huge request. So it now does exist, and it's existed since October 2020. So some main components, obviously drag and drop, reusable components. So we have a little screenshot here, and we'll blow this up for you in the next slide. We also have expanded preview and test sending capabilities. You can also access files from a specific CMS, setting up a specific domain for that. And you actually get aggregate email metrics based on your individual email sends, send in multiple email sends from that same list email templates. And then it's a whole new send-in experience because, again, it is in Lightning. And then you can send and resend to different segments with that same email. So how can I enable this in my org? There are some requirements. You have to be on Pardot Lightning. Your Lightning email builder isn't going to be available if you're still going to pi.pardot.com. Connected campaigns is super important, and HTML, and both of those topics we also touch upon in this presentation as well. It's available in all editions of Pardot, but the catch there is you have to be on the Lightning app. So I do link to some setup documentation here. You have to enable it. You have to set up a CMS. So there's a few different steps to go through, and that's all linked there. So this is what it actually looks like. So there's some standard components, and you can actually customize your own components, but this is what this is what a lot of us have been looking for, where it's drag and drop. Now, there are some considerations and limitations that we'll go through on our next slide. But of course, having our button drag and drop is great. Our image, our rows, where you can customize the number of columns, the width, etc. That's all good stuff. So there are some limitations. This email Lightning builder can only be used for list emails. There is no A/B testing right now, no direct HTML access unless your specific HTML blocks are there, no custom fonts or ability to lock down fonts or other styles, no custom component snippets, dynamic content. This may be an old, and oops, correct me if I'm wrong. Oops, I'm gonna have to stop sharing, I guess, and go back. But correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there may have been updates since the last time. And we can double check that for you folks and get back to you on that one. All right, let me share my screen. Again, I had went back and I could not get back to the slide that I was skipping over. All right, everybody can see my screen again, right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome.
There has been no changes to your list.
Okay, got it. Also, no built-in litmus rendering, so you don't get that email rendering that you can get in Classic, and there are no advanced sending options as of right now. So, for example, you cannot send to assigned user or send from an assigned user or as an account owner. All right. So moving on to HTML. Handlebar mail language. So this is pretty exciting. HTML is the new merge language for personalized and Pardot emails. This one has also been out for a while, but I'm still coming across a few orgs that have not enabled this or take advantage of it. HTML, you can also create conditional logic statements within your email template, and we'll look at a few samples of that. Not only can HTML be used within your email templates, but it can personalize dynamic content, landing pages, forms, and user email signatures. And HTML within Pardot is actually adapting what Salesforce Lightning has already been using. So there's more alignment that we're seeing across Salesforce and Pardot. So this is available within all editions of Pardot. However, you may have to upgrade to HTML, and you actually have to update your individual templates as well. So there is a link here on how to enable that. And the easiest way for you to check if you have HTML enabled, one, if we have this, our favorite notifications at the top of our dashboards that we see, then you most likely have to upgrade. So you still have this notification. And then also within your email template list view, you'll see this upgraded column. If it has a green check mark, you're good to go there. And then you'll notice a difference between your merge tokens or your merge fields. So if they still use the percentage signs, you are still using the old PML. However, if they have the curly brackets, you are now using the new updated HTML. So when you're going to insert, hi first name, this is what it's actually going to look like. So notice that there's some organized categories that we have on the left. There's also a search feature now, and then there's tags for lead and contact field clarifications for us as well. So I mentioned HTML can be used to build out those conditional logic statements right within the email. So this is an example of what you would copy right into an email. And this is an example here. So if the merge field, for example, because we know we can pull from default merge field as well. If we have that merge field show this text when the prospect records includes a value, great, we're going to include their first name. Otherwise, if they don't, let's go ahead and put in hello. And within this deck, there is also a link on how to use and build these HTML conditional statements right within your email. All right, so we'll pause here. Any questions so far? Chat has been quiet.
We can keep going. If there's any questions, I'll go ahead and toss them your way. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so snippets. A snippet, another tool that I think a lot of us forget is available. A snippet is a reusable block of text, date, or links that can be pulled into Pardot emails, forms, and landing pages. It's best used for strict text purposes since they don't support HTML or CSS. And you can assign them to either a business unit or a campaign. So they have a direct relationship with either a business unit or a campaign in your org. So with that being said, there are some requirements in order to have this enabled in your org. You need your connected campaigns. HTML needs to be enabled as well. And you have to have a few other settings on your username to have access to snippets because it is a content type. So marketing user needs to be checked. And then you have to have either Sales Cloud CRM or Service Cloud permission set license. So it is, again, available on all editions of Pardot, but only accessible in Lightning. And there's some setup documentation here, enabling it, and then walking through the steps of making sure that these additional settings are there. So one question I often get, snippets, dynamic content, all of these things, what is the major difference? And I actually ran across a blog, and I really liked the way they put this. At its most simple, you can think of snippets as merge fields for your Pardot marketing emails that are not specific to prospects. This means you do not need to create a custom field in prospect records to change reusable content. You simply just create a snippet, assign it to a campaign, and start using it. So I thought that definition made it a little simpler to understand. But again, depending on what your use case is, you may defer to something else, dynamic content, etc. So the last thing, connected campaigns, and this is where I usually lose people, but connected campaigns, I would say still fairly new because a lot of us are still trying to grasp or really enable connected campaigns and just get some type of structure and hierarchy that we feel good about. So we're going to just start off with basic 101 and then run right into what our connected campaigns actually are and why they're so beneficial. So we all know that Pardot and Salesforce have a very different definition of a campaign that we're typically used to in the marketing world. And it's really to think of as a marketing initiative or an overall effort. It's obviously most commonly used for marketing and sales touch points. And then we also have this entire other object called campaign members that we'll also talk about as well. We know that there can be a one-to-many relationship between contacts and campaigns and leads and campaigns as well. And those all become campaign members. So if we're still utilizing Pardot and Salesforce campaigns separately, here are some of the things that you probably understand about Pardot versus Salesforce campaigns. On the Pardot side, it's a one-to-one with the prospect. We know that usually your Pardot campaign only represents that first touch. They can only be a part of one campaign at a time. And you'll now see it's labeled as source campaign within your Pardot UI. And this is because once you enable connected campaigns, you still get that Pardot only field for source campaign, but you're now able to add individual or prospects rather to multiple campaigns. It's not to be confused with lead source. And really how I define source campaign is how they first touched Pardot specifically. Past guidance that we've received on Pardot campaigns is to keep it broad, webinars, events, social. And then when we're looking at our Salesforce campaigns, we already know the relationships. We can have one-to-many between leads and contacts. And we already knew that they can be linked with opportunities. And these were typically a little more specific than our Pardot campaigns. So a specific webinar, a specific initiative that we're taking. So, oops, oh man. Oh, okay, now I'm able to go back. I seem like a liar now. So with connected campaigns, we're actually enabling Salesforce and Pardot campaigns to be one. So what this means is on that sales side, we have our opportunities working. On the marketing side, we have our campaigns working where we're putting together emails, we're putting together pages that are connected to our paid search campaigns. And we're really now moving towards associating all of our marketing assets to that initiative campaign. So it has more of a definition that aligns with Salesforce. And then right in the middle is that prospect, that contact, that lead. And once we have, or contact, not lead, because we know that in order to assign a contact role, they need to be a contact, they need to be converted. So once we have the relationship between a contact role and a campaign member, which gets assigned on that marketing side, and we'll also talk about that today, then we're able to get some ROI and some of these more in-depth reports that we never got from Pardot originally. So let's take a look at what some of those reports will look like. With campaign influence, influential campaigns are visible on the opportunity based on the contact role's engagement. So that contact role and campaign member, I'm going to go back a slide here, two main important prereqs to make sure we're getting the analytics that we're looking for. So we're on the opportunity object. And when those campaign member and contact roles match, we're now going to have campaign influence. Telling us, hey, these campaigns influence this opportunity. On the campaign object now, we're also going to get a list of our members, but also a list of all of our influenced opportunities. With campaign influence, you get some out-of-the-box report and dashboards. First touch, last touch, even touch. So now with connected campaigns, you're able to add campaign members to multiple campaigns. So you get all of these analytics across the board. Campaign influence does need to be enabled within your org, and there are some additional settings that you can adjust to make sure you're controlling which types of campaign influences you're seeing on your actual opportunity, and then which ones you actually see on your reports like this. Now, if you do not have connected campaigns enabled, you will have to go through a little bit of a workshop where you're connecting any historical campaigns, you're upgrading them to a new naming convention or structure that you've built out. So once you have enabled connected campaigns in your Pardot.org, you'll actually get this screen where you are able to download a mapping workbook and then import it right back in, and it makes those connections for you. So a few other reports that you'll have access to, and these are really useful when you're looking at high-level data. So you're actually going to get summary data at that campaign level. So looking at one campaign, and this is where building structure becomes really important, because now we're looking at, do I just want to look at my 27 fall events, for example? Do I just want to look at my 2017 webinars? These Pardot assets, keep it in mind when you're doing your historical updates, mapping your Pardot assets to the right campaign so you can get these summary data reports. So how many forms, your engagement metrics, and in the next slide, we'll take a look at email opens, link clicks, and all sorts of things like that. Like so, email opens. email opens, click-through rate, emails delivered, unique marketing link clicks, form submissions, and form views. And this is another view here. And then here is a list view of all your campaign names, and your different columns represent those different asset engagement metrics. So you will also get your engagement history related list here. So of course, in Lightning. And that's it. That is it. So connected campaigns, still seeing that they're not enabled in orgs. If they are enabled in orgs, they're still not being used to of those advanced campaign influence analytics.
Awesome. Thanks, Angelica. I wanted to go over the summer 21 release, since you recapped some of the really good, relatively recent releases that people are still struggling to adopt and things like that. I want to make a quick shift to the summer 21 release highlights. Is that something that you want to take on, or would you like me to present on those?
I can do those too. I can bring up the slides.
Okay. Either way. Yep.
All right.
I think for this next batch, something to remember is, as I guess as consultants, right? Like, you try to dive deep into it, but there's really no best practices right now, and this is just kind of like what Salesforce is giving us. And so, if you're interested in exploring some of the features that Angelica is about to cover, you can get those in a sandbox, or you can also enable them in your individual orgs, right? So some of them are restricted to the tier of Pardot that you have, some of them aren't, and some of them you'll start seeing here come alive in the next couple of months.
Yes. So the next few items that I'm going to be talking through are the most recent updates. So feature number 1, and these are specific ones that we've pulled out, that we've kind of noted as, I believe this actually includes most of them, if not all of them. These are the ones that we've concluded as the most important. So we're going to get more clarity and control over our email marketing settings. So after an upgrade within your Pardot.org, so you will get that dashboard notification. You are now going to have a mailability section on your prospect record that's going to show their overall mailable status, do not email, opted out of settings, and we'll have a screenshot of that in the next slide. But you can also have the ability to edit these settings in Automation Rules, Engagement Studio, and your prospect imports. This will be available in editions of Salesforce Professional, Enterprise, and Unlimited editions. So only admins can enable the mailability changes from the banner that appears, of course, on the Pardot dashboard. And this is what it's like once you enable it. So nice and neat. It's going to let you know soft bounds, hard bounds, opted out. Is this a yes? And these are all items that can be editable using those automation tools previously mentioned. So feature number 2 is you can mark in Lightning as operational. So this previously wasn't available to us in Lightning, but operational emails, if we're not aware, they're used to send critical notifications and messages to customers regardless if they've opted out to receive marketing emails. So think of product updates or just notifications in general, software updates that need to be done. But you are now able to mark list emails in Lightning as operational to opt or to bypass that opt-in status for certain types of messages. So again, available in Lightning Experience with Salesforce Professional, Enterprise, Unlimited, and Performance Editions. This is not available in Pardot Classic or the standalone Pardot app, but you do have the ability to take advantage of operational emails in Pardot Classic. So how you would set this up is you would actually want to go to your account settings in Pardot, again, because it is available in Pardot Classic. And then in the Lightning app, you're going to go to your Pardot settings navigation item. Step number or feature number 3. So now dynamic content, and this wasn't necessarily something that's going to have a huge effect on me and the work that I typically do, but I would love to hear other use cases. But dynamic content merge fields in draft emails and templates now display the ID of a piece of dynamic content. So prior to this, they didn't have a specific ID. So now there's a column ID for numbers on the dynamic content list view, so you can make sure that you have the right fields in your emails.
So for this one, in the mail merge token, right, we did have unique numbers for dynamic content, but I think like the issue was that it wasn't clearly labeled. So unless you went and you looked at the URL, you weren't really picking up the relationship between the two, versus this, when you're merging a new a piece of dynamic content into your emails or landing pages, now it clearly says 4, right? So that's really what's changing here. And then we also get this column.
Yes. All right. Feature number 4, so boosting email engagement with Einstein send time optimization. So this is also a pretty neat update. So we can now send list emails to individual prospects at their preferred times using Einstein's machine learning skills. So selecting the ideal send time for each email and prospect technically. So Einstein send time optimization is available for us to use in Pardot's new email send experience only. So it is available in advanced and premium editions with Salesforce Enterprise Performance or unlimited editions, but again, only within that Lightning send experience. So how you would set this up, after you enable Einstein send optimization, again, go into your new marketing tab that you have in Lightning. A training period will begin. And after approximately 72 hours, your marketing users can select Einstein optimized sending option when they're ready to go and send the email. And then there's a few other settings. So you're actually going to enter a start date and start time and a time frame to send those emails within. And then Einstein's going to do the work from there. So the time frame can be anywhere from 3 to 7 hours. So you can experiment with different durations. One quick note, when you're selecting that time frame, it will take Einstein about an hour to evaluate that engagement data for each prospect. So at least allow 1 extra hour when you're entering that time frame value. All right. So feature number 5, Einstein's account, or qualify your best accounts with AI. Einstein's account identification models can tell you which accounts likelihood of becoming your best customer. So really moving towards that ABM model. You'll get assigned tier ranking, a likelihood that that account will have an opportunity created within the next 6 months, and key factors such as industry impact or recent engagement. So this is available within your Salesforce Enterprise, Professional, and Unlimited editions with Advanced or Premium. Again, only available within that Lightning experience. So if you haven't migrated to Lightning experience, absolutely do so. But what this is going to do, allow you to customize your different contributing factors. There we go. And allow you to say, this industry is what we're looking for. We want to tackle this certain account type, and really any other factors you can customize to help break down those different tier assignments. So how you would set this up. So you're going to turn on Einstein Key Accounts Identification, which is in beta in your Salesforce setup, and then verify that that Einstein scoring component appears on your account records. Again, Einstein, you have to give them a few days, build your custom model based on your Salesforce account data, and then data will also be supplemented from the public web as well. All right, so feature number 6, again, focusing on accounts by tracking as campaign members. So a really neat feature in this release is not only can we add leads and contacts, but now we can add whole accounts as campaign members. So add accounts as campaign members from related lists, standard and custom reports to track their engagement. This includes accounts and person accounts. They will also appear in a campaign and as those campaign members in those related lists that we also saw in our earlier slides. It is available within all Salesforce editions. You do have to turn on this feature. You're going to go to your setup, your quick find box, select your account, and select accounts as campaign members, again in beta, and then update your page layouts to include that campaign history related list on the account record. So I have my campaign history related list, and then my quick button, my quick action button that says add to campaign. All right, feature number 7. So designate a marketing admin to handle Pardot setup tasks. So this is actually going to be a new permission. It makes it easier to designate a marketing admin to handle the Pardot setup. So you don't necessarily have to wait for your Salesforce admin. This new license, you're going to assign a new, or permission rather, you're going to assign the new manage marketing setup task permission and the view setup and configure permissions to grant access to all Pardot configuration options. And this again is within your Salesforce marketing setup. The initial Pardot setup task sometimes requires both Salesforce admin and Pardot admin to complete. And now with this new permission, a single person designated as your marketing admin will be able to access and manage all of this. How you would set this up is you do have to create that custom permission set and apply it to the user of your choice if you have a need for it. And then to have full access to the marketing setup and Pardot configuration pages, users need both the manage marketing setup task permission and the view setup and configuration permission. So manage marketing and that view setup.
And I think this one's pretty important because a lot of times when you get you work with a Salesforce admin that as a consultant or an agency, that's really, I think, where the pain point is, where you're trying to help a customer set up their instance, and like the CEO or the CFO signed the check and the contract, and the email notification went to them. So I think with this, it allows you to set one of us or even somebody internal to manage that without having to wait on that person to initially activate the account.
Yeah, I imagine this would be helpful with larger organizations as well, that have some loops that they may need to jump through to get something done for Pardot admin task, for example.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Feature number 7. So feature number 8 is what I'm actually looking for. So enhancements to Pardot Object Sync. This is going to be generally available in different orgs, but background on this, if you've used hundreds of custom prospects fields, it can take time to load and manipulate that data in Pardot Analytics app. For large orgs with tens of millions of prospects, turning on Pardot Object Sync can improve load times. So it's actually, this technically existed before, but it's actually turning into a new name called Object Sync for Pardot. Few improvements such as expanded visitor data and flexibility for business units. To get access to these updates, users must create an app with the new app template. The B2B marketing visitor object now includes all visitor activity data, not just the first and last interactions. And there was an issue fixed for beta users where custom fields appeared in that Object Sync for Pardot app templates, but not in the app templates without the new enhancements. And then custom fields now appear in each type of app. You can also exclude certain business units from this setup. And then you are required to create a new template instead of updating an app you use during the beta period. You do have to create that new object sync for Pardot app. So this is a little more on the advanced and technical side. It is available in Pardot Plus, Advanced, and Premium editions with Salesforce Enterprise, Performance, and Unlimited editions. So what this looks like, oops, here we go. So how you're going to set up. Current beta users, again, you do still have to create that new app. This is going to upgrade your beta app and erases everything that you originally had on the Pardot object sync. And then new users, you're just starting from scratch, creating that new app. Your last step is to go to marketing setup, and you're just going to follow the object sync wizard and go through the step-by-step directions. All right. So a few other updates we wanted to note, and this is the last slide. So Engagement Studio metric formulas were changed. So open and click-through rate on Engagement Studio reports are now based on delivered emails only. So your little tool tips, your list email reporting pages were changed. So to meet the new design guidelines, list email reports include minor changes such as turning pie charts into donut charts, for example. So you'll see those as donut charts moving forward. And view list email statistics in less time. So to improve load time, the list email statistics report table now defaults to show the last 30 days worth of data. You can still filter the table for your specific time range for the date that you preferred, but your standard or default list email statistics view is going to be your last 30 days of data. And then lastly there, you can set up an image repository faster with a default CDN domain. The new default content delivery networks domain for public channels options is now available during CMS setup. And this is within your Salesforce Lightning, your CMS setup. Eliminating the need to work with a web admin or domain registrar. So those were some additional updates we thought were noteworthy. I'll stop sharing my screen here and we can open it up for discussion.
Thank you, Angelica, for coming in and giving us all this great information. Guys, does anybody on the attendees list here have any questions for Angelica on any of those, or have you guys used any of the new features yet? Oh, and Laura, do we have to?
I need to flip everybody over to here. Let me finish recording or stop recording. Thanks
Okay.
for that.